Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA Veteran Joe Wilk. Joe, how are you?
Doing good, man. Yourself?
I'm doing good. Joe, you got a fight coming up against Joe Ellenberger at VFC 38. How's training been going for the fight?
It's been going great, man. I just got back from New York City. I got to go down and train at Henzo Gracie's Academy. Did most of my camp here in town at my own gym in Manhattan, Kansas. So I got to do a little jump from Manhattan to Manhattan. The little apple to the big apple. So I'm feeling good, man. I'm in shape, and I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm. This is the last week of, well, actually it's fight week, last week. Was that the last week of training, or are you still doing some light stuff right now?
No, I'm still going to do some light stuff. I'm finishing up. We're tapering down with my strength conditioning coach. So, you know, it feels like an off week kind of because we're not pushing as hard. But I'm taking it a little bit easier, but trying to keep my energy up. I'm really excited for this fight and not willing to take any chances. You know, I know Joe Ellenberger's a hard worker, and he's probably in the gym too. So we're going to go hard probably till Wednesday morning, and then I'll take Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday completely off.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're the VFC featherweight champion. Is this going to be a title defense?
This is not. Actually, I'm no longer the featherweight champion. I vacated that title. I'm fighting Joe at 155. Fought a lot of my career at 155 before making the move down to featherweight. I felt really good at featherweight. I've only lost once ever there, and I avenged that loss. I've always said this is the only fight I go back to 55 for. Joe Ellenberger got the better of me about 2 or 3 years ago, and I basically always wanted to fight back ever since it happened, and I saw an opportunity here. I think we're both really close to getting the call, and I'm willing to push my chips on the table and move up to 55 one more time and kind of try to sign my own fate here and quit waiting around for my phone to ring.
The reason why I asked was because of your weight cut. How much weight do you have to cut to make 155?
Not much at all. I'll probably cut on day of, 4, 5, 6 pounds. It's been a really good camp as far as that goes. It's been nice to be able to eat carbs and basically not starve myself. 45 is a very drastic cut for me. I can only get down to about 160 pounds. So I do about 15 pounds in the 24 hours before weigh-ins for my 45 fights. The only thing I changed this time, I trained just as hard. The only thing I changed is, like I said, I haven't cut out my carbs. I've eaten really clean, but I've been able to have, whole wheat pasta and wheat bread, things like that, help keep my energy levels up. And, I'll probably cut maybe about 5 pounds on Friday before the weigh-ins.
You mentioned that this is a rematch. Joe Ellenberger and you fought back in 2009. He ended up getting the victory. What went wrong for you in that fight?
Several things. It just wasn't great timing for me. Joe is a very, very good fighter. Obviously, his brother is as well. They're from the Omaha area. He was a very successful wrestler in college. I came out into that fight. It was the biggest crowd in VFC history. There's almost 4,000 people there, and there's about, 3,900 of them pro Joe Ellenberger, and I've done that a lot in my career, but for some reason on that night it got to me a little bit, and came out a little over aggressive. I got caught early with a good shot, and I wasn't able to dig myself up out of that hole. It felt like I was shoveling sand with a pitchfork. He got right on top of me, and I wasn't able to recover quick enough, and just a short couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes into the fight, they stopped it. I never complain about fight stoppages. Going back and watching it afterwards, I think it was a good stoppage. I wasn't hurt, but I wasn't doing enough to let the ref let me keep fighting. I was frustrated and had taken a good shot, and basically he just kind of overwhelmed me right off the bat. I've had 6 losses in my career total ever, and 5 of those times I was handling the fight and basically forward it, trying to get the finish. I always go for the finish, and 5 times came back to 50, where, if you floor it, you better get the guy. If the guy's tough enough to survive through being hurt, then, you're going to end up with an empty gas tank, and that happened to me 5 times in my career. The only time that someone just got on top of me and beat me up was Joe Ellenberger. Since the second I stepped foot out of that cage, I've been wanting that fight back, so when I saw the opportunity, I jumped at it.
Is there any bad blood between you and Joe, or is it just, like you said, a fight that you wanted to get back?
I don't think there is. There's not from my side. I have a lot of respect for Joe. Joe and Jake, and to be honest, for the whole Omaha fight scene. I went up to Omaha in the Victory Fighting Championships at a point in my career where I was very dominant in my own area. You know, I fought for titles in Kansas City and won against guys from Kansas City, in Denver against guys from Denver, you know, in Tulsa against guys from Tulsa, and I was kind of just dominating this area. I knew that there were tough fighters in Omaha, and I was like, hey, this is the next step. I need to go up there and pick some fights in Omaha and see if I can fight better competition and try to get where I'm trying to go. There is some bad blood overall between me and the Omaha area, but I think it's mostly on their end. I try to be a very entertaining fighter. I do ring entrances. I hype the fights really well. And, you know, if you know me, you know that it's basically a character. You know, it's something I do to get ready for fights and to get mentally ready, and also just prepare for ticket sales, everything like that. Over the years, I know most of the fighters now. I know Joe, and I know a lot of the guys. They get it. They know what's going on. So for me and Joe, I think it's just going to be an athletic competition. You know, if he's got bad blood, it's just going to play into my strengths. But from my end, I like him. I think he's a cool guy. I like his brother. I've competed against his brother in a lot of grappling matches and stuff. And the Ellenberger boys have always been able to get the better of me, and I'm not happy about it. So that's why I want this fight.
Mm-hmm. How much do you think he's improved since the time that you fought him last?
You know, I think he probably has improved in some areas, but I think he is basically the same fighter that I fought. I've been at every one of Joe's fights since I fought him. He's fought, I believe, 4 times since he fought me, and I've been there for all of them. We fought on the same card at Titans, and actually fought the fight right after him. So I was actually watching the fight from backstage, ready to go out. Every time I've seen him fight since he fought me, I've thought the same thing. If I get the chance again, I'll take it. And I can, you know, I always think the same thing. I'm watching him. I'm not thinking, oh my God, he's so good, or he looks so tough. I'm always thinking, if this happened again, if we were able to do it, I could get the better of him and get the win. And so here we are right now. You know, if he hasn't improved at all, I think it's going to be a really good night for me. If he has improved, I still think I'm going to win. It's just going to be tougher.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've played, you know, this fight in your head 1,000 times over. You've wanted this fight for a long time. But how have you envisioned the fight ending?
Same way I envision all my fights ending. I want to submit him, and I want to submit him as early as possible. I like to go out and finish fights, and I don't like to waste a lot of time doing it. I'm not a guy who will ever go out and just try to win a decision. You know, I've got 17 wins as a professional. I've got 16 first-round finishes out of those 17 wins. So, you know, people know how I fight. I'm going to go out and fight down hard on my mouthpiece. We'll throw down a little bit. I think the first person that gets hit is going to start wrestling. Either way, he makes one mistake, and I'm going to try to get on his neck and make it a short night. So that's my game plan is to try to, you know, catch a submission and try to catch it as soon as possible. The only one thing I really want to do in this fight is I really want to pick him up and slam him. Everybody tells me every time I fight somebody, you won't be able to take this guy down. You know, every guy that I fought that wrestled in college or that was a high prospect in wrestling, they say, oh, you won't be able to take him down. You won't be able to take him down. Well, I just want to hear the noise the crowd makes if I'm able to scoop him up and throw him down, because I didn't wrestle in my entire life until I started fighting MMA. But I pride myself on being able to take anybody down that I fight. So somewhere here in this fight, I would love to get my hands on him and be able to pick him up and dump him. Other than that, I'm just looking for the quickest fight possible with a finish.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the 16 finishes in your 17 wins. Your 6 losses have all... you've been finished in all 6 of those fights. Is that your attitude on fighting, kill or be killed?
100%. You know, I've got 17 wins as a professional. I really only count 16 of them. I won 1 fight by a decision, and it felt the same as when I had lost fights. When I've gone out in these fights, the times that I've lost, I put it all out there. I would much rather go out there and take my opportunity to try to win the fight and to try to finish the guy than pitter patter and try to win decisions. That's not. I don't want to get where I'm going playing somebody's game. To me, it's a fight. It's not a game. So I want to go out there and do my very best to finish. And if I'm not able to keep up with the pace of the fight to because of that, and that's the reason I lose, then I suck it up and fight another day. So absolutely, like I said, out of those 5 losses, if you go back and watch them, most of them had a 10-8 first round on my side. And then you came out for the second round and you saw a very tired, flat-footed fighter. I'm a better conditioned fighter now. I fought most of my career with nothing more than just jiu-jitsu training. Now for a couple of years now, I've had kickboxing coaches, and for the last few months, especially for this fight camp, it's the first time I've ever had a strength and conditioning coach. It's the first time I've ever lifted weights and done those things supplemental to my training. So I feel better than I ever have. I feel like I'll be able to push that pace even further, and if we get in between second and third and I have nothing left, then I'm going to go out there and bite down on my mouthpiece and take my beating and know that I gave it everything I had trying to finish him.
13 submission wins have come by choke. 1 was by armbar. That makes up the 14. Just curious, are you looking to attack the neck? Is that your go-to? Would you rather have a choke than attack a limb, go for an armbar, knee bar, and anything like that? Is that what you go for? That's what you like, the chokes?
Yeah, 100%. To me, I treat once I started training in the military, that's how I ended up out here in Manhattan, Kansas, was training soldiers at Fort Riley, and basically I got the mind frame of a mock fight to the death. Obviously, our MMA fights are not a street fight or a fight to the death, but in my mind, tapping out kind of symbolizes that, hey, if this was an actual fight on the battlefield, I'm symbolizing to you that I just would have lost that fight and lost my life. Well, an armbar doesn't get that done. And to be honest, a lot of times a knockout doesn't even get that done. I don't know how many times I've seen a guy get knocked out stiff, and the next 2 or 3 punches wake him up, and he keeps fighting and ends up coming back and winning that fight. People get their arms popped in arm bars and get their arms bent half backwards, and they end up sucking it up and keep fighting and winning the fight. You get on somebody's neck and they go to sleep or tap out, everybody knows what would have happened. Everybody. There's so much finality in a choke. If you don't let go of a choke, the person dies. The person does not wake up. And to me, that's the ultimate way to finish a fight, is to take the blood away from them and the air away from them and make them give up. And if you don't, they go completely to sleep and there's a dead body laying on the floor.
Mm-hmm. And also, 3 of your losses have come by submission. Just curious, you're such a good guy on the ground. Just curious how these fights have ended by submission with you on the losing end. Has it just been your willingness to be on the ground and you've just been caught, or is it something else that's led to you being submitted?
In all of those cases, like I said earlier, basically what would happen is I was a little undisciplined and had let myself get to the point where I was so exhausted that I was able to start making horrible mistakes and get caught. I don't take anything away from anybody that I've ever fought, and especially from anyone that's ever beat me, but I've never went out and got submitted when I was still in the fight. I basically have been gassed and then getting my head beat in, and at that point, I get caught in some kind of a submission. And so, it wasn't ever like somebody just took me down, out-positioned me, and arm-barred me. It's more like I get desperate because I'm getting beat up and shoot a bad takedown and get choked, or dive into a triangle choke because I'm trying to take the guy's head off. So, that's kind of always my style, even with grappling and everything like that. I'm willing to take chances and put myself out there. And if I get caught, that's kind of the name of the game. I would much rather be at the end of a loss by KO, TKO, or submission than be that guy that truly believes that I won the fight and then loses the decision. I've never seen heartbreak like that when you see a guy who gave everything he had, but the judges didn't see it his way, and he loses that fight when it was pretty clear to everybody else who won the fight. My main training partner, David Rickles, fights for Bellator, and in the last welterweight tournament, he beat the hell out of Carl Amasu. He put him in the hospital. Carl Amasu went from the cage to an ambulance to the hospital. Dave lost the decision, and Dave, 5 minutes later, was hanging out, dancing and drinking a beer. And I just felt terrible for the kid because he gave everything he had. Everybody knew who won the fight. It was clear who had won the fight, but he didn't win the decision. And that just reinforced the same belief that I've always had, that I'm going to take my chances. I'm going to put myself out there and try to go for the finish. If that's the way I'm going out, that's the way I'm going to go out every single time.
Mm-hmm. Throughout your career, you fought a lot for Titan Fighting Championships. They were recently purchased by RFA. Were you sad to see them go?
Absolutely. City area. I fought there for a lot of years. You know, Joe Kelly is somebody I consider an actual friend, not just somebody I fight for, a promoter. I fought for Titan 5 times in my career, and I was 5-0 in Titan. I never lost there. I accepted some really tough fights for Titan. Some of them happened, some of them fell through. So I have some co-main event fights and stuff on TV with some great fighters, and I really cherish my experience there. With it going away, it is a little sad. It was a great platform, a great little launching pad for me, and it was somewhere I planned on bringing my guys up to, my students. I have several professional fighters now that have came up in their career. A couple of them are undefeated with really good things going and have fought for a Titan before, and I was really hoping that could kind of launch them to the next level like it has me. It doesn't look like it's going to be the case, but luckily enough, I've got a good home with Victory Fighting Championships. I've always been treated really well there. It's a great show. The owner, Ryan Stoddard, is actually my manager as well, so we have great connections with them. So, with Titan not going on right now, we'll be happy to fight with Victory, and I would also love to deal with RFA, who combined with Titan there. We've heard from RFA. I'm just not really interested in signing any multi-fight deals right now unless it's with one organization.
You're 8-2 in your last 10 with 9 stoppages. Are you surprised that the UFC hasn't called you yet? Because they deal with a lot of guys and always tell them, hey, go out and get some finishes and, we'll be interested. And you've done exactly that. How surprised are you that you haven't gotten a call from them?
I am a little surprised by it. The thing is, too, is besides the fighting, I think that I bring a lot more to the table than a lot of these other guys that are getting signed do. As you can tell, I'm not shy to do interviews, and I consider myself very well spoken. I say a lot of times, I tell people I feel like I'm the best interview in MMA. I consider things a lot more than most fighters. It's not just bell to bell with me. I think about my pre-fight interviews. I think about my ring entrance. I think about my speech after the fight, what I call, like from the wrestling days, I call it cutting a promo. I go out there and I let people know what the business is, and from the beginning of signing for a fight all the way until I get backstage after the fight, my goal is to entertain people. On top of that, with a good record and lots of finishes, I definitely thought it would have happened by now. It hasn't, and there's nothing I can do about it but keep my head down and keep working hard. People would be shocked at some of the offers that I've turned down over the last couple of years, but I'm not interested in those offers. There's only one that I really am interested in. When I started fighting, which was a long time ago, my first fight was in 2001. When I started fighting, there was only the UFC. That's where you went if you made it. And so it was ingrained in my head to the point now where I feel like if I don't go, that I never put that final stamp on my career that I wanted to put. So I feel like it's good timing. Everything happens for a reason. And I feel like, this fight with Joe is something where I can really make it happen for myself. I would find it very difficult to believe that moving up a weight class, fighting a guy with such a name, a guy that's only lost once ever in his hometown, his twin brothers in the UFC. He's clearly been looked at before. After the Salas fight, Justin Salas went straight to the UFC. It definitely would have been Joe if it wasn't him. And so like I said, I saw this opportunity arise, and I dove on it. I was like, hey, I know what I can do here. I can kill 2 birds with one stone. I can get this fight back, avenge a loss, and I can also secure my position, I believe, with the contract in the UFC's 145-pound division.
Do you believe that the winner of this fight, regardless if it's you or Joe, deserves that call? Because you've been on a roll, he's been on a roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that's the whole point. I would never have taken a jump back up to 55 and done this without that potential. I think that we both deserve it. I really do. I think that we both deserve the call. I wish this fight didn't have to happen because I think it would be fun to fight in the 145 division and watch Joe have a lot of success up at 55. And I don't think that necessarily the loser of this fight doesn't end up there anyway. It's just going to take a few more fights. But like I said the whole time, I saw an opportunity here. I kind of like when you watch World Series of
Last question, Joe. I've always been curious, how did you get your nickname, The Nose?
I get that a lot. I'll tell you the same thing I always say. We obviously never met face to face, or you wouldn't ask me that question.
Sure.
I have a big nose, and not only that, but I have a little mole on the end of it. All my friends, God bless them, my whole life never let me hear the end of it. So when we were, even as young kids, they would call me Nose or Joey Nose, Joe the Nose, and it kind of started off as an insult, but it was one of those things that just stuck with me. When I started fighting MMA, it just carried over. I would bring 100+ people with me to fights a lot of times, and a lot of them were my close friends from growing up. And they'd call me Joe the Nose. The next thing I know, it got leaked out to one of the announcers at a fight show, and I got announced as Joe the Nose. I looked up in the stands, a bunch of my friends had made T-shirts that said it, and they said Joe Nose MMA, kind of like a play on Bo Nose, only with an N-O-S-E. And if I would have tried to fight it off, it just would have stuck harder. And throughout my career, I've grown to appreciate it because a lot of people have the same nicknames, and pretty much everybody has a tough guy nickname. And that's just not me. I'm more of a guy that's out there having fun and trying to be entertaining. So it works out perfect for me. I like sticking out a little bit, and if it's at my expense a little bit, I'm fine with that because I think it's funny too.
Yeah, definitely original. You got all these guys running around. There's like 15 guys who are the Beast. So it's good to have a new nickname out there.
Absolutely. I try to separate. I spent my whole career trying to separate myself from the guys that play metal music and when they come out to the ring and have their hood up over their head and have a nickname like Skull Crusher, and then afterwards they just want to thank God and their family and everything like that. It's the same routine over and over again, and I feel like I can kind of break that mold, and I definitely feel like I've done that. It's pretty hard to go to a fight show in my area without seeing stuff that I've done in the past, whether that be ring entrances or guys really caring about their interviews and doing stuff like that. I've kind of, like I said, broken the mold here in my territory in the Midwest, and I have a lot of guys that go out there and kind of try to be me, and I think it's flattering, and I think it's good for MMA because at the end of the day, people aren't just buying a ticket to see a 15-minute fight. If I can get them to cheer or boo before we even throw a punch, then I'm doing my job.
Joe, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you would like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
I've got a lot of sponsors in the past. I've had support from Battle Sports, but I think they're sponsoring Joe Ellenberger for this fight. I've got American Tattoo is one of my good sponsors when I fight in Omaha. I'm always in the chair on Sunday, getting tattooed and celebrating a win. So big shout out to American Tattoo, and also to my management, Relentless Management, Ryan Stoddard, also the owner of Victory Fighting Championships. I'm always well taken care of there. I know that as a manager, he wasn't super excited for me to take this fight just because he knows Joe's such a tough fighter, but we talked about it. I told him I was confident and we got it done, so I want to thank him for believing in me. And other than that, just like I always say, jiu-jitsu or die. Look for me to finish this fight. I'm looking to use jiu-jitsu and prove that I'm the better fighter in this fight come Saturday night.
Joe, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck this Saturday night at VFC 38 against Joe Ellenberger.
Hey, you got it. Anytime, man. I never shy away from an interview. Call me